Good afternoon on what is a cool, grey and overcast day. It is Monday the 29th of August, August bank holiday, and I'm in the Read Nook with a nice hot cup of tea and a cat who is not ours. Yeah, that's not a view you want. And hold on. He does want some attention. And some parcels to unbox. I've got this, which is the Top Gun strategy game. Let's have a look. What's interesting here is I'm going to point out to you is this. Prospero Hall. They're an interesting sort of game design collective who have really made a good job of taking licensed properties and combining them with well-worn and tested and tried gaming mechanics, and the result actually, you get a good solid theme, solid mechanics, and an enjoyable game. So things like Horrified, which is the board game based around the classic Universal monsters, so Dracula, the Mummy, Frankenstein's monster, and the creature from the Black Lagoon, of course, and the other one is Jaws, and they're all terrific little games that essentially, if you think back as to when those properties came out, so the Universal monsters is sort of like 30s and 40s, Jaws is 1975. And then of course Alien 1979, you would never imagine you'd have games as good as those for those intellectual properties. But we have Top Gun, which, as you can see, I got for an incredibly cheap price, which is why I picked it up. So I don't need that. Yes, all right. He does want a fuss. Because the weather's turned, so he wants a nice warm lap. So yeah, now this is not the first Top Gun game. In the mid-80s, about the time, not long after the original first film came out, there was a board game from FASA, which was a kind of a standard military jet combat game, and it was mostly okay. And the other thing about it is that it was kind of a plug-in to FASA's BattleTech at the time. Its rules were designed so that you could use them as atmospheric combat rules, as opposed to the rules for Aerotech, which is what BattleTech used. Aerotech were essentially the equivalent of were space fighters and bombers, which could do atmospheric for combat, but not very well. And to really do it well, you needed the advantage of the Top Gun rules. Anyway, so enough about that. Let's have a look at Top Gun. So, do you feel the need for speed? It's on the back. Okay, I have to read it out. Go from the sound to the skies in this strategy game based upon the hit movie, in which you have not one but two phases. So you've got the volleyball phase, play as Team Maverick and Goose, or as Team Iceman and Slider. Improve your skills by strutting your stuff on the volleyball court to gain rewards. Now this is interesting. Volleyball was one of the few games during physical education that I actually played and mostly didn't mind. Didn't enjoy it, but didn't mind it, if you know what I mean. But I would never have thought of to be actually playing it as a board game. Whereas in the fighter school phase, during air combat missions, pilots work with their weapon system operators to get a target lock in the opponent and take home the coveted Top Gun trophy. So you've got, you can see sort of like more sort of like you've got the cards for the sort of like hidden movement across the sand, and similarly you're actually fighting behind a shield and then manoeuvring on the board in the Top Gun phase. So 2 games in 1. And I mean, that's not unlike the Jaws game, because you have 2 games in that. The one where you run around trying to detect the shark around Amnesty Island, and then try and snag it with the boys, and then you go out on the Orca with the police chief and the shark specialist and Quint, of course, the shark hunter, and face the shark himself. So that's the 2 phases in here. The 2 phases in Jaws. Here you've got 2 phases. The volleyball and the fighter school phase. Now the question is, does one influence the other? It's just an interesting question. I don't know, but to a certain extent, if you win the island phase in Jaws, the better you do, the more of an advantage you'll have in the boat phase. So this is designed for 2 to 4 players, ages 10 and up, and thankfully cat that's not ours has sat down on my lap. So let's get this open, and of course let's find out whether I drop everything on the floor and somehow have to pick it up with a cat on my lap. If you had to vote, I know what you're voting for. So, and it's also slightly more awkward getting it open because I can't have it on my lap because I've got a cat on my lap. Thanks, cat. And he's not helping. Why are you not helping, cat? There we go, almost there. So what we've got inside, first off, is that. So I'm going to go through this bit by bit. So we've got there's the rule book, instructions, all very glossy and 80s, if you know what I mean. It's almost like, it's almost done like a video game cover. And then gameplay, get ready, how to set things up. Oh, okay, yes, all right, I'm talking. And then we get into the volleyball phase, and going through how that is played. And the Top Gun phase. And the Top Gun phase is a bit longer, essentially, because you've got pilot manoeuvres, and I've got examples of a pilot manoeuvre there. Let's try and manoeuvre this around the cat's head. And you've got cards for the WSO, the weapon systems operator in the back, countdown to target lock, and so on. Everything you need in there to play. You've got various counters, so red and blue, even all counters, and they're all kind of green, so they're kind of neutral. Everything you kind of need for the sort of like for the volleyball game, for the volleyball phase. And that's the board for the Top Gun phase, flying around various mountains and down valleys and so on. I don't think terrain necessarily enters into it. And we've got essentially setup cards, I think. I'm guessing at. You've got dice. No, you can't have the dice, cat. I know you want the dice. And then cards like that. So you've got things like it says whiff, pink team draws 1 green WSO card, and it's pink and red, I see. Not going to draw any inferences from that. So yeah. So essentially, I think the card play kind of in the phases does kind of affect the outcome. And then what we've got here, if I can open up that, you've got your height standees for your little miniature planes, and they nicely sort of stack like that. Yes, I'm not giving you enough attention. Sorry, guys. And then you have your individual jets, which of course are going to be your 4th generation air combat vehicles, essentially F-14 Tomcats, long since taken out of service by the US Navy. And then we've got, for the pink side, we have a little stand D. Inside, you put guidance on for target lock, which says, you know, if you're 1 or more elevation above your opponent, roll an additional die. If you're 1 or more elevation below your opponent, roll 1 fewer die. Ending the game. The game ends when either team for both sides has 12 or more points after a hop ends. The team with the most points wins, and it's more or less the same, I should imagine, for the blue team. So you've got a nice little bit of screen there and some various dials and so on, which just sort of like adds the feel of the game, the flavour. Oh, and then of course you've got some stands for the aircraft. And he's got bored with me and gone away. That's fine. So that is the Top Gun strategy board game, which I look forward to reviewing with interest to see how much the movie it emulates. So yeah, and yeah, trying to track this one down, going for for a really kind of cheap price. If you look carefully in your local favourite retailers. Anyway, in the meantime, I think I hope you have enjoyed this unboxing in the Nook. If you have, please do click on the like button down below. And of course, if you've got any comments or feedback, appreciate you taking the time to post those. And lastly, if you want to be alerted to yet more unboxings in the Nook, where you'll see me out here with a box containing a book or game, which I will unbox and chat about to the best extent of my knowledge, all of course accompanied by a nice hot cup of tea. And occasionally a cat that's not ours, then please do hit that subscribe button down below. Thanks again for watching another unboxing in the Nook. I'll be back again soon with another one. Bye for now.